Hey everyone, what is going on? Today, I'm going over a pretty big issue on the car and something that was neglected, and I learned a pretty big lesson. So, got some grounds pulled off here, a whole kick panel, and a whole spaghetti of wires. So, let me kind of explain what happened here. I'll show you some of this first. We have a bunch of burnt wires. So basically, when I was going out to autocross last weekend, or previous weekend, whenever, I was at the gas station and I saw a wire hanging out from under the kick panel. Now, I had thought that it was this wire. Used to have a stereo in this car. So there was a remote wire that was disconnected from the old head unit that was just hanging in there. So I thought it was this hanging down. So I grabbed it and pulled on it to see where it went. But it was actually a power wire that was connected up here to this fuse block and ran down through that open grommet hole back there that wasn't fused. And here is still part of it. Here, where I was moving wires, but let me see. I had pulled it and it pinched on the screw. I guess the wires were down here where there was slack, and when I pulled it, it pulled up, chafed on this screw, and started melting. And it melted a few wires, and now I'm going through the process of seeing what exactly was damaged and fixing it. I've had this car a long time, and when I first started doing things, I didn't know a lot. But I never went back and rechecked some of the old work because, it was hidden under panels. I never thought about it. So now, the car still runs and starts. It still starts. I don't know what I did with my keys, but the wiring for the car is completely fine. So the car still starts and runs fine. I also found that my car used to have a remote start, and there was just this wire just still hooked into it that was never removed. I don't know why, so I'm gonna have to remedy that as well. And I'm just gonna clean up some wiring under the dash. Basically, those wires were for my auxiliary switches in the center console, which was for like the lights up front, like the Demon lights and stuff like that. The other problem is I just would grab one spool of wire and run stuff. So there are ground wires that are red because everything is 12 gauge red wire. So little wiring lesson, and luckily it only damaged some wiring. It didn't damage anything else. I used the grommet through the firewall, but that has melted because the wire caught fire. It was a little scary at first. The whole car was filled with smoke. There was smoke coming out the engine bay, and I just kind of went up there and just started yanking on the wire to disconnect it from the terminal. And once that happened, I made sure the car still ran. I got the windows down and checked it, see what happened. Found out that some of my center console accessories didn't work. They were disconnected, and just disconnected all the wires to it, so that way there was nothing else. Any of the damaged wires were all disconnected. The car still ran, so I went out and raced. So that's where I'm at now. Basically, I've grabbed another fuse. I don't remember what this one was for, but this wire went up to the fuse block. This was one that was damaged, but the fuse was in here, so that didn't really do anything for it being under the car. Now, this wasn't the one that damaged. It was this white one. I just got to pull stuff apart and find out what it runs to and why I did it that way. But for the most part, like here's my shift wires for the paddle shifters. See, those are up here in this channel. Those are low voltage, just that would cause a shifting issue in auto stick mode if those were chafed. But yeah, I gotta remedy this. Probably tape up some of these wires for the ignition because they're all exposed. And probably have to pull a new wire with a fuse over the center console. And yeah, learn my lesson. Make sure you have fuses, whether it's a fuse block, inline fuse. Make sure it has a fuse. If you got a car that someone else has worked on, make sure all their stuff has fuses. Because luckily all this stuff was on the driver's side. There's no fuel lines on the driver's side. All the fuel lines are on the passenger side. So if it was near a fuel line, that could have been catastrophic, especially being parked at a gas station. So kind of a reality check to go over all your wiring. You know, it is only 12 volt. You may not think anything of it, but it can still do a lot of damage. So make sure your wiring's correct. And I'm going to get to messing with this weekend and try to clean it up. So hopefully you guys like this video. I also think in the future I'm going to ditch the nitrous in the car. I don't drag race anymore. It's just taking up space. So I think this winter I'm going to pull it all out. It's a Venom VCN 1000. So all I really need is a new A-pillar for the driver's side in charcoal black. Because the switch is glued up there, and I'll pull everything out, all the solenoids, everything, and that'll let me run like a velocity stack filter up front. It'll give me a little bit more space, and I'll ditch some weight. So that's where I'm at. Just make sure all your stuff's wired and properly. And till next time, like and subscribe.